I think most people would probably agree that if the worst happened and they lost their job perhaps, or they faced a major financial requirement in a very short space of time, they would struggle.
There's an increasing amount of debt. People aren't prepared or planned for the rainy day.
For my sins in all my time with financial services, I had never heard of a credit union. And this is still the same problem. People haven't heard of them and don't know what we do.
Financial exclusion for us, like everything in County Durham, is pockets of disadvantaged areas. We know from actually working within those particular villages that the finance is an issue, and the knock-on effect from that is great, in so much as we've got health issues, we have got employment issues, even education, down to the levels of education. So that financial exclusion has been a major issue for us, and throughout the 6 years of our AAP has been something that we've kind of cut across all our particular working themes.
A few years ago, there was a lady wanted to borrow money for a laptop for our children for Christmas. So she went to borrow money from who she thought was a friend, and actually he was a loan shark. Within the next 2 years, she'd ended up cracking up a whole load of debt of £88,000. As this was going on, the lady lost her house. She had 2 strokes and a heart attack. The children were eaten out of their friends' bins to keep their strength up, etc. It was a horrible story. She'd stopped paying our other credit because she had to keep paying the loan shark. She was rehoused by our local housing provider, Dermside Homes, and that's how eventually she found out about the credit union in Stanley.
I think Stanley's an area that's probably suffered quite a lot in the past. Quite a deprived area in many senses, but it's also a strong community area. There's a really strong community in and around the Stanley area, and I think it was important that we provided a service that probably wasn't available to them. I think it's also important that we combat the threats of loan sharks and payday lenders, and I know that Stanley is an area that is particularly affected by those things.
You know, going into one of the estates in County Durham, in the south of County Durham, a lot of years ago, some 25 years ago, we used to be driving down with the collectors, collecting the money, and the kids used to be running up, "Come in, me mummy wants a loan," and you'd be going into this house, and all they would have is a sack of potatoes, a tray of eggs, and a loaf of bread. And that was what these children were getting brought up on. And these parents couldn't bring the children up sometimes without borrowing money from the lenders that were thereabouts. There was a lot of them about those days. There still is, but not so many doorstep ones as there was 30 years ago.
We've got the same challenges the national picture is, that there's an increasing amount of debt, that people aren't prepared or planned for the rainy day. And even those that are just getting by, a slight shock to their current status, unexpected bill coming in, MOT or something on the vehicle, or even something as unfortunate as a funeral, can actually blow people's finances apart. And at that point, they're very vulnerable to quick and easy, simple solutions, which turn out not to be quick and easy, simple solutions further down the line.
Credit unions are really important to our community and the local economy, in so much as that they're very localised. The beauty of them in some respects is we can put credit unions in any particular places, in any particular areas around our villages. We rely heavily on volunteers. They know the people that they're working with. People know each other. They kind of have that ability, that trust, that relationship. The credit union, from our perspective, is growing. From when we first started working with them 6 years ago to where we are now, we have more outlets, we've got more volunteers, we've got more people, but in essence, we haven't got enough. And I think that's one of the key things that we've got to play with. We've got to increase those, but more importantly, increase that knowledge of what a credit union or a community bank can do for you.
Since I started my job 6 years ago, it's developed. It's tremendous. My first office, if you can call it an office, was a little house in a little village called the Grove in Concert, which was kindly given to us to use by Downside Homes. And as the times moved on, the support from our partners we work with and the belief of the credit unions who, with the partners that we do work with, the County Council, Downside Homes, the Area Action Partnerships, we've developed so much from being in a little house and then moving into offices in the Front Street in Stanley with the support of Downside Homes, giving us a Front Street presence, which was really, really important instead of being a little credit union in a back street office or a house where nobody could find us. So we've moved forward so much.
We changed our name to Prince Bishop's Community Bank a number of years ago, and that was seen as a crucial change. And I'd like people to really think about that word community and what it means to them and what it means to other people in a financial sense as well. This is not just about people who are clinging on to the bottom rung of the financial ladder. It is about everybody. So you may be clinging on to the bottom of the financial ladder. You may need some urgent financial assistance, and that's absolutely fine. We can help you out with that. But I'd also like to encourage people who are perhaps a few rungs higher up that ladder to really see this as an opportunity to help other members of their community, to help them, because the more they invest with us, the more we're able to help those people in real financial need.
I suppose my vision for credit unions and community banks across our particular area are to increase usage of them. And I think that's key for us, is to try and use things like this to try and raise the profile, let people know about what's going on and how they can support that, but also how much money, for example, they can save. And I think that's the key thing. We've got to get that message over. Make sure people are aware of how they can benefit, and raise that profile as best as we possible, so therefore we can bring in users.
The alternative to a vision where credit unions aren't expanding is the rise of the payday loans, the rise of these shops where it looks easy. Credit looks easy from their point of view. The windows are nice and shiny. The figures on the doors look impressive. It's a nice, shiny, let's have it today kind of attitude. The long term is that's money getting sucked out of the economy. That's money that's not getting spent in the local shops. That's money that's not being used by the local communities. And the price, in the end, is higher than you need to pay. And the risk of default is serious for you.
This project really needs businesses to be switched on and to allow us to come in and talk to them and talk to the staff. We need companies to come to approach us. It's not a lot of hard work for yourselves. We do the work.
One of the other things that obviously we're working on is actual working with firms and getting them to deduct it from your wages. It's a very practical way. You've never seen the money, it's tucked away, so you don't have that temptation to spend it then. It's temptation to build it up. From the firm's point of view, it's an easy way to do it. They're already dealing with the wages, so they can do it very practically. But it is an opportunity to build up those savings. So, when your staff are thinking about long-term for the holidays or even short-term for the sort of sudden shock things I was talking about earlier on, there is an opportunity to do that. So it's working with firms, and I would encourage even more firms to do it. From a county council point of view, I know that a number of people, including myself, have found it a very useful way of saving. And then, something's coming up, you can save for it in the long term.
A lot of people that are off work on the sick, it's due to stress. And it's money that causes the stress. There's figures out all over that's saying this. There's 2 in 5 people not got enough money if they lost their job. They've got no savings, so people have got less savings now than they had 20 years ago. So it can help you as well. And again, your staff don't know we're there to help them.
The evidence that we have suggests that young people's savings and spending habits are set by the age of 11 and 12. So therefore we really need young people to understand the value of money and the value of saving on a regular basis in their primary schools. So as they go through their education, they're saving on a regular basis, learning the true value of money and the true cost of high APR rates.
I think we'd all agree that saving is an excellent habit to get into at an early age. I remember back to when I was a child, and I think my bank account was opened about 3 days after I was born. It hasn't really helped me in terms of being a fantastic saver since then, but I was aware of saving, and I think it's important that school children are encouraged to become regular savers. It seems to me that the banks aren't really interested in children until they become students, and actually we can provide access to savings for children in a friendly way and in a fun way.
We really need to encourage the heads to become involved. We know they've got such a busy schedule, but the schools that we work with at the minute absolutely love what we do.
I would recommend that head teachers see this as a really positive way forward. It's a way of getting children to engage with money, which is an important part of our lives, but it's also a way of reaching their parents and their families as well.
Going back to the days when I was actually at school, we used to buy little green stamps and stick them in a little book. And, you know, that sort of taught people what saving was all about. And credit unions is a great way of doing that.
With regards to kind of primary school and secondary school head teachers and teachers and how they actually view the kind of educational aspect of this, it is primarily fixed on the curriculum side of things. The secondary nature of the community element, the ethical benefit basically, is there but doesn't seem to feature primarily because of the focus of Ofsted and because of the focus of curriculum. And as being a parent governor myself, I can kind of see how that kind of works. But at the same time, we know that Ofsted, for example, they don't just focus on curriculum. They do have an outsider perspective of where do you live? What's the community like? How does the school impact upon that community? And I think from a school perspective, that's one of the key things that we should be selling and the school should be getting a handle on, is that by doing something like this with a credit union, with a community bank, then they're not only doing the curriculum stuff, which they need to around the maths and whatever it might be, but also they're having a kind of knock-on effect to that local community. And I hope, again, we can talk about volunteers coming into school to help support that, but it's about raising that profile. And I think one of the things that's key for us as well from schools is that each school tends to have a newsletter. And that newsletter can then promote the credit union, can promote the community bank basically within that community and push that forward and hopefully raise that profile. So there are a number of ways in which the school should kind of consider this, certainly from a curriculum perspective, but think of the community element. And I think from an Ofsted perspective, that's a great appeal.
We want children to value money and to not be tempted as they grow up through their life to go to the doorstep lenders. Also in the schools, it's a way of trying to get the parents to join. So the children save, so why don't the parents come and join as well? We've been sponsored by the Area Action Partnerships, the County Council, the Coalfields Generation Trust. Lots of people encourage the credit union to do this. So we really want the schools to help. We want to help them, and help we want from the schools is just let us come in and let us help your children learn to value money.
I think the potential for Prince Bishops to grow in future is huge. We've already expanded into Bishop Auckland, we've expanded into Tynedale, and the rest of Northumberland is effectively a new area for us to pursue. The feedback that I've seen so far from the people of Tynedale is that this is a really welcome initiative, and I'm sure that would be the same in other parts of the area as well. So I think we need to make sure that we're doing what we can do in our own region, in County Durham, but also look at where we have opportunities to grow in Northumberland.
So from being, when I started 6 years ago, a little office in a little house in Concert, we now have 3 offices. So Stanley is now our head office.
I think the credit union needs to move forward to advance and bring in more user-friendly techniques so that people can access their accounts online. And I think as long as we keep pace with that development, more and more people will use the credit unions and more people will see the advantages of fair credit and saving.
Where we go from here is we want to expand further. We want to get the message out to people to understand it's for everybody. The churches are a fantastic support to us as well as a lot of other partners, but we want to grow. We need to grow and get the message out.
It's one of the best expressions of self-help you can get. It's a community coming together, working together for the common good. It's a fantastic expression of people's community spirit, and I'm delighted to be involved with it and seeing it go forward.